My name is April Newell. I am currently in dental sales with Nota 3D. It's my 20th year in the dental field. The earlier years were spent as an assistant. The majority of my career was spent as a hygienist, and then the later years in operations and sales. So I've tried to get my hands in every aspect of dentistry that I could.
Excellent, perfect. So moving from the sort of dental assistant field to the hygienist to sales, what sort of how have you found the changes and the transitions?
It's been interesting with as many aspects of those different roles um, that vary. There's one core foundation that spans across all of them, and that's patient care.
Yeah.
As long as patient care is your focus, you're going to do well in any aspect of dentistry. Once that is not your focus, you're going to have a difficult time, and patients and clients see and feel that as they should. So as long as patient care is your motivation, that translates through client care as well.
Excellent, perfect. And how long have you been in the 3D market then? For
3D market a little over a year. I wanted to get into it for quite some time, and I was very picky
Mhm.
about who I wanted to represent. I wanted, again, their focus to be the same as mine, and that's
Yeah.
patient care. Quality, service, all of those things play a part, and I wanted to be proud of who I was representing. So I had my target company picked out, and I waited for the opportunity and went for it.
No, of course. And sort of since you've been in the 3D market, have you noticed any changes? How's the growth been since joining?
Yes, I have noticed a lot of changes. I- Interesting opinions on a couple of different ones. So when we talk about dental 3D printing, it's really two subjects in one. There's dental lab printing and dental clinical printing. They're two completely different ball games. Dental lab printing is growing at a very steady pace. The changes that I'm seeing with them are a lot of these offices, or excuse me, a lot of these labs are having to become more of a partner on the technical side with offices. More offices are printing now. That's not going to replace the need for lab printers or the need for labs. Everyone needs to kind of almost, stick with their specialty and make sure they're doing what works the best for their patient in that moment. And sometimes that's a lab, sometimes that's an office, depending on what those specific needs are. But the bigger changes have been how labs and clinics work together as 3D printing becomes more popular clinically.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think the clinical side of things has probably moved a little bit slower over the years compared to the lab space. But that being said, now do you see sort of a bigger impact into the clinical side and more of a push down that sort of avenue?
Absolutely. One of the biggest deficits has been support on that side. Labs have been printing a long time. They have a lot of connections and relationships with their printing companies, clinics, not necessarily. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
you can buy printers from people who may not necessarily know much about printing or specialize in that. And it really needs to be geared toward what you want to accomplish with it. It's not a one size fits all scenario. And so there hasn't been much support on the back end for that. So Nota 3D, we have built a complete customer onboarding program that includes lifetime support.
Right.
There's turnover in dental offices, things happen, and our goal is to make sure that whatever you invest in is not going to collect dust.
Excellent. Perfect. And what sort of challenges are faced in that clinical aspect, and why does that differ from the lab space?
Sure. Labs need much more specialized high volume printers typically.
Yeah.
Clinics don't. Labs have gone through the trial and error, or have colleagues who have gone through the trial and error of a less industrial printer versus one that has been put through the ringer, for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
Clinics haven't. This is a fairly new thing on the spectrum of dental technology, and you can get a printer from any rep anywhere. Um, Again, the challenge being, how much does that person know and how well will that company be able to support you? The biggest challenge has been mass distributed printers.
Hmm.
You can imagine if a company is selling more printers than they have people per percentage, they aren't going to be able to help and train very well on the back end.
No, yeah, I would agree on that one. And how does this sort of approach differ from the sale to a lab to a clinic? Obviously, with them being sort of very different, how would you approach the sale?
Yeah, it really depends on why they're wanting to purchase a printer. When we talk to labs about purchasing a printer, it really comes down to ROI. Is this printer going to produce what you need um, at a level of quality that you need, and in a timely enough fashion that you're going to get return on that? Because then they
Hmm.
have to turn around and sell it back to a dental office. Dental office, there are a couple of reasons why they buy printers. Sometimes it's just fun. New
Yeah.
technology is fun. It adds value to the office, especially if someone is getting ready to retire. I hear that conversation a lot. Make your office more digital. That makes it more desirable on the market. Another reason is to save money. If
Hmm.
people are doing a lot of night guards, that kind of thing, if they purchase the right printer, because anything's going to print. If they
Yeah.
purchase the right printer with the right resin and they are creating lab quality night guards, for instance, they save a lot of money as opposed to purchasing that from a lab that may be printing it on the same machine but charging them 300%.
Yeah.
The third reason is time saving. If you can print out a crown chair side and create a 1 point appointment crown, why wouldn't you? In many cases that's a huge advantage for the patient as well. So the conversation when it comes to a dental office has to do specifically with why they want it and what they want to use it for.
Perfect. Obviously, when you moved into the 3D print space, it will have been quite a slow market compared to how it is now. What do you see sort of the future going forward?
hmm Um, it's similar to when Sterac came out, when digital x-rays first came out. It was a neat new technology, and now it's par for the course. That's
Yeah.
what's happening here. It happened much longer ago in dental labs, and it's going to happen in dental clinics. Everyone's going to have digital x-rays and probably a printer. So it's going to kind of become expected.
Hmm.
Um, the level of usage will, like I said, kind of lean on the amount of support that office has.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will continue to grow as people are understanding that once you install a printer, you also need to be there to back up and support that clinic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would say that from speaking with yourself and many other people within the industry, a lot of what people don't realize is how much work goes into cleaning and maintaining a printer. Do you
Mhm.
see that sort of being a challenge for the officers? Because they will need
Yes.
someone to obviously look at that.
Absolutely. It's only an issue when people aren't taught the importance of it beforehand.
Yeah.
All of these are light cured substances. Dental offices are used to using light cured substances in almost every facet: hygiene, restorative, everything.
Hmm.
However, this machine, although curing light cured substances, relies on the ability to clearly cure that. So you're curing something that you also need to um, remove completely. And if you're not taught how to do that or why that's important, you're never going to have accurate prints. And if you don't have accurate prints, you're not going to be delivering something of quality that that patient deserves.
Excellent. And for those people that are sort of new to the market and don't know it so well, what are the main three benefits would you say to having the printer there?
Mhm. Main three benefits are well, the top two are saving time and money. Um, you're saving money as a clinician if you're able to produce something of lab quality in-house. Again, don't
Hmm.
do it if you can't do it, but if you can, yeah, that's a big benefit. Offices spend a lot of money annually on lab fees. The second thing is saving time. If you're working on same day dentistry, that patient's able to take off 1 hour of work instead of multiple consecutive visits, and that's a patient benefit as well as saving chair time in the office.
Hmm.
The third, like I mentioned earlier, it's fun.
Yeah.
Offices like having new technology. It adds benefit and value to your office. So there's really no downside in a printer as long as you're using it properly and as long as you were trained and it was properly implemented with your staff, so that you didn't invest in something that is going to just look pretty on a shelf later.
Excellent. And in regards to sort of Note 3D, have you got any plans this year to release any new printers? What sort of the growth plans do you guys have?
Yep. We have a couple of new expansions on the lab side, but as far as the clinic side, we have, as of this year, a new smaller desktop printer. The difference in this one is it's an LCD instead of a small projector. So the small
Right.
projector is one of the common problems with a tiny printer. So this doesn't have a projector. So that saves some inaccuracies on that aspect. It's also an open system, so people can use pretty much whatever resin they want. We still recommend the one we know and use to produce good products, not just produce a print for you.
Yeah.
They are professional grade. They are what you would get from a lab. And again, the support behind that. Our biggest thing is anyone can sell you a printer, but you need someone to be there to walk you through to make this work properly and work at the patient's quality that they deserve.
Perfect. Thinking what questions we've got left to ask. Yeah, so for for people that are new to the market, what sort of tips would you give them into how to sell and going about joining this market?
As far as being a rep?
Yeah, as far as
Or
being a rep, yeah.
yeah, my biggest thing and the biggest thing that I spent time on, really, I'm going to break that down into two things. There are two main things I spent time on. Learning about printing.
Yeah.
Again, you're not just selling something, you're helping to implement something. You need to make sure it's a complicated field. You need to make sure it's something you're actually interested in.
Yeah, of
You
course.
should be solving problems for people, not just taking orders and moving machines. That needs to be a huge factor. The other thing is research what you're repping. Are you selling something that's really popular but comes back with complaints every 6 months? That's not,
Yeah.
that doesn't feel good. Make sure you're representing equipment that has a good reputation, not only for functioning well, but for the support on the back end too.
No, great. And what sort of, for those reps that want to come in and want to achieve and hit those high numbers, when I spoke with someone else, they mentioned that it's really being able to sell the materials that come with the printer and sort of the support. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely. But that all results again from solving problems.
Yeah.
It's the same being a clinician in dentistry. How do you sell treatment? You solve problems. Don't create the issues, solve the problems, find out why they want the printer and find one that matches them appropriately. And then you have a customer for life.